The Wolf by Guy de Maupassant. This is what the old Marquis d'Arville told us at the end of a dinner given by Baron de Revel on St. Hubert's Day. A stag had been hunted that day. The Marquis was the only one of the guests who had not taken part in the chase, for he never hunted. Throughout the long meal, the conversation had been solely about the slaughter of animals. The ladies themselves were enthralled by the bloody and often improbable stories, and the narrators acted out the struggle between man and beast, gesticulating and shouting in thunderous voices. D'Arville spoke well, with a slight touch of inflated but effective poetry. It was clear he had told this story many times before, for his words flowed smoothly, and he found apt expressions and vivid imagery with ease. "Gentlemen, I do not hunt, nor did my father, my grandfather, or my great-grandfather. But my great-grandfather was the son of man who loved hunting more than all of you combined. He died in 1764. I will tell you how it happened. His name was Jean. He was married, had a son who would become my great-grandfather, and lived in our family castle in Lorraine, deep in the dense forests, with his younger brother, François d'Arville. François d'Arville had remained a bachelor, all because of his passion for the hunt. The brothers hunted together year-round, without rest or respite. It was all they loved, all they knew. They spoke of nothing else, lived for nothing else. A cruel, insatiable passion burned in their hearts. It consumed them, took complete possession of them, leaving room for nothing else. They had strictly forbidden anyone to disturb them during the hunt, no matter the circumstances. My great-grandfather was born at precisely such a moment, while his father was pursuing a fox. Upon hearing of his son's birth, Jean d'Arville did not break off the chase, but merely cursed. Damn it, that loafer could have waited until the hunt was over. His brother François seemed even more obsessed with hunting than he was. The moment he woke, he would go to see the hounds, then the horses, and while waiting to set out for big game, he would shoot birds around the castle. In the district, they were called the Lord Marquis and the Young Master. The nobility of that time was not like today's, which strives to create a descending hierarchy of titles. For the son of a marquis is not yet a count, nor the son of a viscount a baron, just as the son of a general is not a colonel by birth. But the petty vanity of our age delights in such inventions. I return to my ancestors. They were said to be extraordinarily tall, large-boned, hairy, fierce, and powerful. The younger brother was taller than the elder and possessed such a booming voice that, according to a legend of which he was very proud, every leaf in the forest trembled at his cry. When these giants, setting out to hunt, leaped into their saddles and charged forth on their towering horses, it must have been a magnificent sight. And then, in the middle of the winter of 1764, a bitter frost set in, and the wolves grew particularly fierce. They attacked belated peasants, prowled around houses at night, howled from dusk until dawn, and ravaged the cattle pens. Soon a rumor spread that a wolf of monstrous size had appeared, light gray, almost white, that it had killed 2 children, bitten off a woman's arm, slaughtered all the guard dogs in the vicinity, and fearlessly crept over fences, sniffing at house doors. The inhabitants swore they could hear its breath, which made candle flames flicker. And soon, panic seized the entire region. At nightfall, it seemed the darkness itself threatened the beast's appearance from every direction. No one dared to step outside. The d'Arville brothers decided to track it down and kill it. They invited all the local nobility to a great hunt. It was all in vain. They scoured the woods in vain, searching the thickets. The beast was nowhere to be found. They killed many wolves, but not this one. And every night, as if in revenge, the beast would attack travelers or devour livestock, always far from the place where it had been sought the day before. One night, it crept into the pigsty of the d'Arville castle and slaughtered the 2 best piglets there. The brothers burned with fury. They perceived this attack as a personal mockery, a direct insult, and a challenge thrown at them. Taking their best hounds, trained for predatory beasts, and consumed by rage, they set off in pursuit. From the first light of dawn until sunset, when the crimson sun disappeared behind the bare trees, They combed the forest depths in vain. Finally, frenzied and dejected, the brothers turned homeward, walking their horses along the bush-lined road, bewildered at how this wolf had so cleverly eluded them, experienced hunters as they were. Suddenly, a kind of superstitious dread seized them. The elder uttered, "It seems this beast is no ordinary creature. To think it's clever like a man." The younger replied, "Should we perhaps appeal to our cousin the bishop to bless some bullets? Or ask a priest to read a suitable prayer?" They fell silent. Jean spoke again. "Look at that bloody sun. That wolf will work some mischief again tonight." But before he could finish speaking, his horse reared, and Francois's mount began to buck. The thick undergrowth, carpeted with dry leaves, parted, and from it burst a colossal gray beast, fleeing deep into the forest. The brothers roared with elation and, bending low over the necks of their powerful steeds, drove them forward with the whole weight of their bodies, urging them on with such speed, lashing, goading them with shouts, movements, and spurs, that it seemed the mighty riders themselves were carrying the heavy animals, gripping them with their legs, flying along with them. The hunters raced, stretched flat over the earth, leaping over bushes, clearing ditches and hillocks, descending into hollows, and blowing their horns with all their might, summoning their men and hounds. And then, in the heat of this mad gallop, my ancestor struck his forehead against a massive branch, which split his skull. He fell to the earth, dead, while his maddened horse charged on and vanished into the gloom of the woods. The younger d'Arville reined in his horse sharply, dismounted, gathered his brother into his arms, and saw that brain matter was seeping from the wound along with the blood. Then he knelt beside the body, laid Jean's mutilated, bloodied head upon his knees, and grew still, gazing into the motionless face of his elder brother. Little by little, fear began to seep into his soul, a strange, hitherto unknown terror of the darkness, of solitude, of the dense forest, and of that mysterious wolf which had destroyed his brother, avenging itself upon the hunters. The twilight deepened. The trees cracked with frost. Francois stood up, chilled to the bone, feeling he might collapse from exhaustion. Nothing could be heard around them now, neither the baying of hounds nor the sound of horns. Everything was still in the invisible expanse. The grim silence of the freezing evening held something terrifying and extraordinary. With his powerful arms, he lifted Jean's enormous body, heaved it across the saddle, and slowly set off towards the castle. His thoughts were muddled, as if in a drunken stupor, and he was pursued by monstrous, unseen visions. And suddenly, on the path shrouded in night's gloom, an immense shadow flitted before him. It was the beast. Terror gripped the hunter. An icy chill ran down his spine, and, like a monk beset by a diabolical apparition, he crossed himself fervently, bewildered by the fearsome predator that had so suddenly appeared. But then Francois's gaze fell upon the motionless body of his brother, lying before him, and his fear was replaced by fury. He began to tremble with ungovernable rage. Through the dense forest undergrowth, no longer recognizing it, never taking his eyes off the whitish spot that fled from him into the gloom of the falling night. His horse, too, seemed imbued with some unknown force. It raced headlong, neck outstretched. The head and legs of the corpse slung across the saddle battered against trees and rocky outcrops. Thorns tore out clumps of hair. The head, smashing against massive trunks, spattered them with blood. His spurs gouged deep scratches in the bark. Then, Horse and rider burst from the forest and galloped into a ravine. At that moment, the moon crept over the mountains. The stony hollow, hemmed in on all sides by colossal cliffs, had no exit. The cornered wolf turned. Francois roared in triumph, a roar taken up by the echo, rolling through the mountains like thunder. He leaped from his horse, gripping his hunting knife. The bristling beast, back arched, waited, its eyes blazed like two stars. But before joining battle, the mighty hunter lifted his brother, propped him against a boulder, supporting his mangled head with stones, and shouted into his ear as if he were deaf. "Look, Jean, look!" Then he hurled himself upon the monster. He felt strong enough to topple mountains, to shatter rocks. The beast tried to throw him and rip open his belly with its claws. But the hunter, forgetting his weapon entirely, sank his hands into the wolf's throat and began to throttle it slowly, listening to its breath rasp and its heart cease. And he laughed in frantic fury, tightening his deadly grip, crying out in a fit of mad triumph. "Look, Jean, look!" The wolf stopped struggling, its body went limp. It was dead. Then Francois seized it, dragged it, and flung it at his elder brother's feet, repeating in a breaking voice, "Here he is, here, my dear Jean. Here he is." Then he slung both bodies across the saddle, one upon the other, and set off. He returned to the castle, laughing and sobbing, like Gargantua at the birth of Pantagruel. He shouted cries of victory and stamped his feet, describing the beast's death, and, weeping, tore at his beard as he told of his brother's end. And often afterwards, recalling that day, Francois would say with tears in his eyes, "If only poor Jean had seen me throttle the wolf, he would have died happy. I am sure of it." The widow of my great-grandfather instilled in her orphaned son a loathing for the hunt, which, passed down from generation to generation, came also to me. The Marquis d'Arville fell silent. Someone asked, "But it's a legend, isn't it?" The storyteller replied, "I swear to you, it is the absolute truth from the first word to the last." Then one of the ladies said in a gentle voice, "Even so, how splendid it is when a man is possessed by such passions." Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories. Please share your impressions and thoughts in the comments. I would be delighted to converse with you. My dear listeners, do subscribe to our channel and await further tales. I would be most gratified to read your reflections in the comments below and to engage in discourse with you all.